6. Dubai's abandoned supercars. Dubai is the city of dreams and luxury. Year after year, people flock there to strike it rich and live a good life. When expats from the United States and the UK arrive in Dubai with hopes of success, they tend to start buying materialistic things like expensive cars before they even get to that point. Unfortunately, success isn't attainable for everyone. It seems as though a lot of people get ahead of themselves and buy their dream cars before realizing their careers will soon plummet. Maybe that helps explain why Dubai's airport and hotel parking lots are full of abandoned luxury model cars. Every year in Dubai, 3,000 or so high-end vehicles are left to collect dust around the city. 3,000 doesn't seem like much in hindsight when there are other places in the world with a higher count. For example, Oakland, California. Every year, Oakland sees 17,000 abandoned vehicles. But there is a vast difference. The city hosts abandoned Ford Escorts, VW Jettas and Chevy Malibus. While in Dubai, the cars left are BMW Bugattis, Lamborghinis, Porsches, and even a Bentley Continental GT. Dubai's waste management department explained in an interview that they just let the cars sit and collect cobwebs. But if the car so much as obstructs another person trying to park, then the vehicle will be removed. Once authorities identify an abandoned car, they'll attempt to notify the owners. After 15 days, if the car hasn't been removed, it'll be towed to impound. Once there, the owners, if identified, will have another 60 days to claim and pay the fines. The owners usually ignore their notifications and don't show up. This results in forfeitures. After that, the car will be placed on auction for a much lower price. Why anyone would want to abandon such nice cars is what most people want to know, especially when they see the price tag, such as the Ferrari Enzo for $2 million or the Bugatti Veyron for $2.9 million. It turns out, people chose to abandon their vehicles and flee the city, instead of staying and facing the consequences. Dubai adheres to Sharia law, and failure to pay your debt becomes a criminal charge. There's zero compassion for those unable to pay or those who declare bankruptcy. This involves not only foreigners but also locals. The abandoned car problem in Dubai isn't likely to go away anytime in the foreseeable future. As long as strict laws are left in place, people will likely continue running from their consequences. On the upside of the issue, the strict laws also make Dubai a great place to visit for an auto auction. 5. Uday Hussein's FF40. Uday Hussein was just like his father Saddam. They were both unstable, violent, and have committed unspeakable crimes. They also couldn't stand the sight of each other. During one point in Uday's life, he owned over 1,000 cars. One, though, stands out above the rest. Like many other dictators in the Middle East, Saddam Hussein was well off financially. His son benefited from this wealth and amassed a collection of exotic vehicles, including Rolls-Royces, Ferraris, and Porsches. That is, until his father set fire to the majority of the cars as a morbid punishment. Uday had killed his father's personal valet during a raging dinner party in 1995, which was the reason behind the vengeance. Saddam burned his son's beloved items in order to teach him a meaningful lesson, and he seemed to enjoy every second of the blaze. The lesson did not put an end to Uday's passion for vehicles though, and in 2003, when he was killed, he still had a collection that included the renowned Ferrari F40 and the Lamborghini LM002. One of the most exquisite Ferrari models ever made is the F40. The twin-turbo V8 in it accelerates the vehicle from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 4.5 seconds. The highest speed of the F40 is 201 miles per hour. This vehicle might have been sold for up to $1.5 million if it had been properly maintained. At the time, Hussein's son also had at least 5 Excaliburs, a Plymouth Prowler, several Porsches, a Ferrari Testarossa, and other luxury vehicles. Another story stated that he was the owner of a rare Iraqi McLaren F1. Uday Hussein's cherished F40 remains left behind in Iraq years after he was killed by American Special Forces. Just before the American invasion of Iraq, it was supposedly being repaired at an auto garage in Erbil. The Second Gulf War seems to have spared this supercar from Uday's wrath. 4. Greek Elvis Lamborghini Miura. A 1967 Lamborghini Miura isn't exactly a car anyone would expect to see abandoned in a parking garage, especially for over 30 years. Aristotle Onassis is a Greek logistics tycoon and the man who married Jackie Kennedy after her husband President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Aristotle was a billionaire in 1970 and was well known as the man who created the world's largest private shipping fleet. He was one of the world's richest men and he spent lavishly on those around him. He was a huge fan of Greek music. Stamatis Kokotas, known as the Greek Elvis, was a favorite singer of the man. He loved his music so much that he bought the Greek Elvis a 1969 Lamborghini Miura S, a gift that comes in at around $1.5 million today. Kokotas was a self-claimed race car driver who pushed his cars to the max. He drove a 2002 BMW and raced his brown 1969 Lamborghini Miura S. In 1972, after only 52,118 miles, the engine was blown, and no one at all was surprised. Kokotas originally was excited to get the engine fixed by Lamborghini. He parked the car in a hotel garage during the repairs. Unfortunately, Kokotas' attention faded, and the famous singer never paid Lamborghini for the repairs. As a result, the car sat in the garage for 30 years, until at long last it was released from its tomb in 2003. Thanks to the Olympic Games, the Miura S's wheels started moving once again. The Lambo was taken to a storage facility as the hotel underwent repairs for the 2004 Summer Olympics in Athens. It wound up next to a red Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing that was also in pretty bad shape. It sold for $483,210 at an auction in 2012. If you were rich enough, would you buy your friends a luxury car? Let us know in the comments and be sure to subscribe. 3. Shelby Daytona Cobra Coupe. The Shelby Cobra Daytona was the brainchild of legendary auto designer Carroll Shelby. Its design was rare from the start. Only 6 of them were ever made, and they only became more valuable as it was used to break speed records and win racing championships. In direct competition with names like Enzo Ferrari, Shelby wanted to create an American production sports car that could hold its own against Italy. When most cars competing in Europe were sporting the open cockpit design, Shelby recognized the poor aerodynamics an open cockpit design had. Working directly with a professional aerodynamic specialist at Convair, Shelby drew up plans for the sleek fighter jet design that's now iconic of the Shelby Cobra. The advancement in aerodynamics ended up shaving about 10 seconds per lap off the overall race time. In the International Championship for GT manufacturers around 1963 to 1964, the Shelby Cobra, much to Carroll Shelby's despair, came in second to Enzo Ferrari. Shelby did, though, put Americans on the map as serious competitors in the European sports car market. Finally, in 1965, out of the 12 racing events it competed in, the Shelby Cobra took first place in 9 of them. It was the first American team to do so. For Carroll Shelby, beating Enzo Ferrari accomplished not only a personal goal, but also established one of the most iconic American sports cars in history. After winning the international championships, Shelby's Cobra Coupe, the original prototype with chassis number CSX2287, still had a few races left in it. Utah's Bonneville Salt Flats were the next big destination. With top speeds of up to 187 miles per hour, the Shelby Cobra broke 23 local, state, and international records in just 4 days. After breaking world speed records, Carroll Shelby sold his first Cobra for $4,500 to Jim Russell, the proprietor of Ruskits. The mystery then turns a bit strange. Russell put the car up for sale for some reason, and renowned music producer Phil Spector bought the Cobra. Rear exit exhaust and inside carpet were fitted to the Shelby at some point between these owners so that it no longer felt like a race car and functioned more like a street car. George Brand, a recently appointed mansion manager, acquired it around the end of the 1960s. Brand, an ex-cop who was nearing 50, started working for Spectre in 1968. After getting an absurd amount of traffic tickets, Spectre's lawyers insisted that he sell the vehicle. Despite being 80 years old, residing in an assisted living facility, and suffering from a mental illness resembling early-stage Alzheimer's, Brand says that Spectre sold it to him for $1,000. Brand then spent 19 years working for the difficult Mr. Spectre. Brand searched for a spot to keep the Cobra in 1968. His daughter Donna offered a garage-style storage facility that she'd rented out. John O'Hara, her high school sweetheart, who worked in an orange farm near Yorba Linda, and Donna, who was in her early 20s, had been married for about 3 years or so. The O'Haras wanted to drive it, so they managed to register the racing vehicle in both of their names, allegedly without her father knowing. But street-legal race cars are mechanically challenging, so they were put into storage at the end of 1971. For over 3 decades, it was called the Lost Cobra, and not many people knew where it was. It was believed to be destroyed until it was rediscovered in O'Hara's storage space in 2001 after her death. O'Hara's mother sold the vehicle to Dr. Frederick A. Simeone, who's now the proprietor of the Simeone Foundation Automotive Museum, after a court dispute between her and a friend who has left the storage facility in a will statement. 2. Aston Martin DB4. In recent years, barn finds have been making their way into auctions across the country. Covered in the dust of time, these classic and rare finds captivate buyers. The discovery of an abandoned Aston Martin DB4 took the concept of a barn find to the extreme. It was built on an RAF installation in Warwickshire and first popped up in England in 1913. The word luxury is defined by Aston Martin. Leather, wood, and the best materials were used to trim the inside. The DB4 debuted in 1954 and came standard with a high-powered engine and gearbox designed by the most advanced auto engineers in the whole world. The DB4 was the first production vehicle to go from 0 to 100 in less than 30 seconds, serving as a forerunner to the James Bond vehicle seen in Goldmember. One of these incredibly expensive and opulent cars was purchased in 1960 by a mystery American, who then had it delivered back to the States. One can only presume that the owner of the Aston Martin was enjoying the high life and was the talk of the town, at least for a while, since records show that the car was registered in 1961. The Aston Martin was abandoned in the Massachusetts woods at some point in the early 1970s for strange unknown reasons. The expensive vehicle was decaying day by day as it was covered with leaves, mud, and eventually moss. On January 8, 2017, it was carted off to auction with broken leather, warped wood, and nearly unrecognizable trim. It sold for $374,000, which is over 100 times the original purchase price. Just goes to show that even in complete disrepair, you likely could never afford an Aston Martin DB4. 1. Expensive barn finds. At the beginning of 2018, Warren Kramer from North Carolina contacted barn find hunter presenter Tom Cotter about 2 expensive historic cars in his friend's garage. The property was vacant and had recently been condemned by the city, with the home and garage up for removal. It was critical to get the 2 vehicles out of the garage and transferred as soon as possible if they were to be saved. The homeowner's 1966 Ferrari 275 GTB/2 and 1967 Shelby Cobra 427 had been sitting for over 27 years. His reliable mechanic died 30 years ago in 1991, and the owner was picky about who operated on his rare automobiles. Even after nearly 3 decades of neglect, classic car insurance provider Hagerty estimated the vehicle's value at $4 million. Because of the risks associated with transporting such costly goods, no local towing company could relocate them. Cotter had no choice but to move the cars himself. They were filthy and crawling with disgusting insects and rodents. Both cars, though, were in shockingly good condition for having been neglected for far too long. The Shelby-built Cobra had just 19,000 miles on it, while the Ferrari, which the owner bought in the early 1980s for $47,000, had a little more than 13,000 miles. Gooding & Company sold the cars as is for $3.5 million at their Amelia Island, Florida auction. The vehicles started right up after being serviced before the event. Thanks for watching. What would make you abandon a vehicle? Let us know your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. We'll see ya next time.